Yeah, the captain had a fight with his wife and yelled at the sergeant, who yelled at the private, who went home and got mad at his wife and yelled at her, and she kicked the dog. What did the dog do to deserve getting kicked? So it's a ripple effect that moves out. So who's going to interrupt it? Okay, so the captain had a fight with his wife. That does not give him permission to yell at the sergeant. That's something that they manage on their own. All right, so the sergeant got yelled at by the captain. That does not mean that he's automatically got permission now to go yell at the private. So whoever chooses to interrupt it gets interrupted. And that's where Jesus' perspective of turn the other cheek, I'm going to interrupt it. But they just punched you. And, well, you're a wimp if you're not going to fight back. No, I'm going to be stronger by not fighting back. I am not going to allow my flesh to overrule my spirit. Right. So when we work with couples in particular who are caught in this cycle, our goal is to let either one of them choose who wants to interrupt it.
Mm-hmm. Anyone could.
Either one of them at any point. Yeah, but when he comes home and he talks to me like that, I said, so do you want to interrupt it or do you want to keep it going? Well, but when she says that to me, it just makes me so angry. I said, yeah, because you've got things in you that you don't want to address. And so you take them out on your wife and blame her. Mm-hmm. So the interrupting of that pattern, when it says that Jesus could have called down legions of angels, he didn't have to put up with it. And he said, this is the way that God does things. Yeah. Counterintuitive. It's a narrow road. Not a lot find it. And you think, well, I think a lot of people are going to go to heaven. Well, I don't think he's talking about heaven as in who gets eternal life. Just a very few people, and the rest of you guys sucks to be you. To walk that path of interrupting the patterns of the flesh, to interrupt the system that is geared to support itself. When you look at, I think it's John 4 with the woman caught in adultery. They were ready to stone her. And Jesus happens into this mob that's going to kill this woman according to the law, which is God's law, which is what the system supports. And he goes, let the one who doesn't have any sin throw the first rock. Well, that's interrupting a systemic, cultural, long-term, well-embedded belief system that actually is a godly, if you will, in their belief, way of doing things. This is how we do things here. We're protecting our belief system, our religion, our godly lifestyle by killing people.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, well, I'll tell you what. You guys that don't have any sin, throw the first rock. And the older ones went, he got us there. And it said, starting from the oldest to the youngest, which I think is an interesting pattern. The older ones were recognizing that, maybe this system isn't really supporting what we really believe, which is life. Down to the younger ones who going, I really am looking forward to this rock throwing fest. They're saying this was a sin serious enough to die. And Jesus is really saying, okay, any of you who haven't sinned, we're not going to give you a scale of 1 to 10 on the worst being 10 and the least being 0. If you're on the scale, throw a rock. Go ahead. And if you're not on the scale, throw a rock. And they're going, well, I'm really kind of at a 3. I haven't committed adultery, but I have kind of messed up stuff. So yeah. That's one of the struggles that I have with church organization and denominational structure is every denomination is based on exclusion.
Mhm.
If you don't follow the Pope, or if you weren't baptized, or you didn't go through our confession, or you didn't go through our orientation or indoctrination or bar mitzvah or whatever it is, then you're not one of us.
Mhm.
Now, you could be one of us if you follow our rules. But if you're not, then you're outside and we're inside. And that division, then those people out there, those are the sinners, those are the lost ones, those are the heathen, those are the ones that we'll spend money to go to try to bring into our group. So it feeds into that very base belief system of anybody who's not on our group is bad.
Yeah.
And those people, those, whatever you want to call them, whenever we think of them or talk about them, it creates in us that adrenaline rush of there's the enemy.
Yeah.
We better protect ourselves from them. Now,
Yeah.
we can couch it in love and say, we need to go out and bring them in. We need to go out and convert them. We need to make them like us. Well, and that's what Jesus said. You will travel over the world to convert one sinner, and they become just as much a son of the devil as you are. You go, "Arr." My goal is to make them wonderful. And Jesus says, you're not making them wonderful. You're making them horrible. The implication, you'd be better off to leave them alone, you know, and you go, but they're sinners. So the interrupting the pattern of organizational perpetuity, if you will. My goal of my organization is to keep my organization going at all costs.
Mhm. It's
You know, our organizational framework of, do we have an objective?
Yeah.
And if we do, we might want to reconsider, is it our objective? See, that feeds into the organization. My goal is to sustain my belief system,
yeah.
my approach, my goals. So when we, and I'll zoom through, when we look at organization, the goal for me is to deconstruct it.
Mhm. Mhm.
I don't need an organization to do ministry. And if I develop an organization for ministry, then my shift has moved from ministry to organization,
Mhm.
organizational support and maintenance. And when we look at what is our objective here? I just want to do ministry. What is it? Well, Acts 10:38 said Jesus went about doing good.
Yeah.
And healing all who were oppressed of the devil. Can we go
Yeah.
about doing good?